actress Lydia Hope Ewing is suing her ex-boyfriend, Mark West, for an accident he had with her car. Mark claims the accident wasn't his fault.
All rise. Yes, this is case number 17 on the calendar in the matter of Ewing versus West.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Ewing, it is your claim that the defendant owes you for an accident that he had with your car while he was driving your car with your permission, and some small utility bill from when he left the house and you were living together. Let's deal with the accident, please, and not this utility bill. All right?
Okay.
Good. How long were you living together?
In December, it was probably about 9 months.
Okay. Sir, let's start with you. When was the accident?
Approximately December, I believe.
You want to tell me what happened?
Basically, she asked me if I could drive her to work because she was running late. Dropped her off at work, was driving to a friend of mine's house, and was...
Well, why were you dropping her off at work, sir? You were borrowing her car?
She was late, and...
Does she doesn't drive?
Yes, she does, but she was late. She had asked me if I could drop her off.
Mr. West, if she's going to work and if she's late, why isn't she driving her own car?
She could put her makeup on the car on the way to work. More time to get ready.
Does that sound right to you?
No. He, to drive, so it wasn't registered.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Well, why didn't you say that?
That wasn't the reason I was driving her car.
Well, sir, let me tell you what you just said to me a moment ago. You said you dropped her off at work and you were going over to see a friend of yours.
Yes.
Which means you had someplace to go. And if you couldn't get there driving your truck, which you clearly wouldn't use because it wasn't legal, you needed a car that day.
I wasn't legal either, so me driving anything was not legal.
You mean you had no license?
Suspended license.
Why is that?
I was supposed to make my court hearing within 10 days. I thought it was 30.
Make what court hearing?
Court hearing I had for a ticket.
What kind of ticket?
Speeding.
Oh. See how complicated things get? Why were you letting him drive your car if he had no license?
I was under the impression that all of that was being taken care of.
What do you mean all of it was being taken care of? What does that mean?
He had more than one ticket, and I was...
I assumed he did.
I was under the impression that it was taken care of, and he had asked me not to keep bothering him about it. I didn't realize he was going to be driving my car all over town like that either.
I don't care if he drives your car from here to the end of this room. Driving all over town isn't the issue. Driving at all, getting behind the wheel of a car and turning on the ignition is the problem. So, Miss Ewing, you knew that he had no license.
Yes, ma'am.
You let him take you to work, go visit his friends, come back to pick you up, and you knew he had no license. I just want to get things straight. It would be so easy if I could get this without, like, pulling teeth. All right, Mr. West, so you dropped her off at work, and then you went to your friend's house. I'm waiting for the accident.
On the way to my friend's house, I was rear-ended.
Did you get out of your car?
No.
Why not?
Because I had no license.
Didn't you get out to see if maybe somebody was injured?
I was the one rear-ended.
So what? I mean, common sense would say, listen, if you were rear-ended and caused almost $3,000 worth of damage, according to her, somebody might have been hurt in the other car, even if it was their fault. Keep going. I'm getting more fascinated with this story of yours.
The damage didn't look near as bad. It looked like it just needed a new bumper, and we had agreed. He had said that he would pay for a new bumper. A month or two later, he still had put it off, and
you're driving the car?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's driving the car?
No, that was the last
Never
time.
drove the car after that?
No.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The next month is when he moved out. We were bickering back and forth, I guess, but he was obviously not going to pay for the bumper, so I took it in to get an estimate for the bumper. The damage to the car apparently isn't something that you can underneath a car. The trunk pan is rippled. There's dents, or not dents, but dimples next to the sunroof from the impact of the accident. And
what? Dimples to the sunroof?
Well, during the collision, it'll send a shockwave through the body of the car. And
what do you do for a living?
I'm a waitress.
Waitresses can't give expert testimony on what happens during the course of a collision. Your statement, Mr. West, is that Miss Ewing was in 2 accidents since. How do you know she was in another accident with the car?
All I know is that she obtained new rims because she had damaged one, and the other was pretty much just hearsay.
Were you in subsequent accidents after this incident with Mr. West in December?
I was not in an accident. I ran over a curb, if that's considered an accident.
Well, it's not on purpose. You didn't run over the curb on purpose.
No, no.
And you damaged the car.
Well, the tires needed to be replaced, yes, ma'am.
How many tires?
2.
That's a lot of damage. You damaged the rims as well? Is
Yes.
not an answer.
Yes.
Get a life, Miss Ewing.
Okay.
Let me see the estimate that you have. The rest is for roof panels with sunroof, add for clear clove glass sunroof, possible rear suspension damage, clean and delivery, $20. You needed a bumper. What kind of car do you have?
2002 Honda Accord. And if you read, I mean, the gentleman explained to me why.
Listen to me, my dear. You're lucky, quite frankly, that I would award you a penny based upon the fact that you permitted an unlicensed driver to drive your car. That's your responsibility. You're the owner of the car,
Yes, ma'am.
and you can say, no, you can't drive your car because you're irresponsible. The government says that you're not responsible enough to drive any car, and I'm not giving you my car to drive. Then you wouldn't have been in this problem with him. Second thing is, I'm not prepared to say what damage was caused by somebody rear-ending him, or whether the underneath part of the car was damaged as a result of you going over a curb that required you replacing 2 tires and 2 rims. But mostly, you had no right to let an unlicensed driver drive your car. Period. End of discussion. Okay. This court is going to award you $200. You want to have the bumper fixed? Terrific. You don't? Terrific. Are you together? Questionable? When you say questionable, what does that mean?
That means no.
No. Listen to me very carefully, sir. You moved out in what month?
January.
Since January, have you and Miss Ewing had dinner together?
Yes.
Since January, have you and Miss Ewing gone shopping together?
Yes.
Since January, have you and Miss Ewing slept together?
Yes.
Miss Ewing, you get 0. Nothing. Nothing. You picked them, you deal with them. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused and let's step out.
We don't see.
We have all been there, darlings, clutching a lukewarm glass of Chardonnay while staring at the television, watching a parade of human errors so spectacular they almost deserve a standing ovation. And this particular episode of Judy Justice is the absolute crown jewel of the What Were You Thinking collection. There is a very specific, almost itchy brand of frustration that bubbles up when you watch a woman like Lydia Hope Ewing walk into a courtroom with a 2002 Honda Accord and a mountain of expectations, only to realize she's been dating a walking, talking, speeding ticket-collecting red flag. It's the kind of episode that makes you want to reach through the screen and scream, "Honey, if his truck isn't registered and his license is suspended, he shouldn't even be driving a tricycle, let alone your primary mode of transportation." But that is the addictive beauty of daytime court. It's a mirror held up to our own messy tendencies to soft-launch disasters in the name of love, or at least in the name of not having to drive ourselves to work. This case, Ewing versus West, isn't just about a rear-end collision or a rippled trunk pan. It is a profound study in the sunk cost fallacy of modern romance, where we keep investing in people who couldn't find a legal driver's license if it was stapled to their foreheads. Watching Judge Judy dismantle the logic of these two is like watching a master surgeon perform an appendectomy with a verbal chainsaw. It's messy, it's brutal, and you simply cannot look away. We discuss this episode because it touches on that universal human desire to believe that everything is being taken care of, even when the person in charge of taking care of it is currently dodging a court hearing for speeding. It's about the audacity of seeking $3,000 in damages when you're the one who handed the keys to a man the government literally said is not responsible enough to be on the road. It's a masterclass in the intersection of legal liability and emotional insanity, and if you haven't felt that vicarious describe a relationship status, then you haven't truly lived. This episode is a necessary intervention for anyone who has ever prioritized not bothering their partner over, not breaking the law. It's loud, it's sharp, and it reminds us all that sometimes the most expensive thing you can give a man isn't your heart, but your car keys. The curtains rise on Act 1, which I've aptly titled The Red Flag Chauffeur Service, A scene so riddled with logical potholes, it's a wonder the car even made it out of the driveway without spontaneously combusting from the sheer weight of the secrets it was carrying. Our story begins in the hazy, romantic fog of a December where Lydia, a hardworking waitress who clearly has a PhD in seeing the best in the absolute worst, finds herself running late for her shift at the restaurant. Now, any sensible person with a 2002 Honda Accord would simply hop in, check their mirrors, and navigate the morning rush with a determined spirit. But Lydia decides to take a different path, one that involves handing over the keys to her boyfriend, Mark West. Mark is the kind of man who treats vehicle registration as an optional suggestion and views a suspended driver's license as a minor clerical error rather than a legal prohibition against, being behind the wheel of a moving vehicle. To drive her so she could put her makeup on. But darling, we all know the subtext here. He needed a car that wasn't an illegal truck, and she was all too happy to provide the wheels as long as her eyeliner looked winged to perfection. It's the ultimate convenience ship that sets the stage for disaster. Then we move into the chaotic, metallic middle of our story, Act 2, the invisible impact and the physics of the sunroof dimples. After dropping Lydia off to serve coffee and smiles, Mark heads to a friend's house, because apparently that's what unlicensed drivers do on their day off, and gets rear-ended. In a move that defines cowardly chic, Mark doesn't even bother to step out of the car to assess the damage or check on the other driver, probably because the mere sight of another human being might lead to a conversation that ends with a police report. The drama truly hits the fan a month later when the romance dies and Lydia suddenly transforms into an amateur forensic engineer. She walks into court claiming that this minor bumper tap actually sent a shockwave through the body of her 20-year-old car, rippling the trunk pan and, I kid you not, causing dimples to appear near the sunroof. Watching her try to explain the structural integrity of a Honda Accord to Judge Judy, who has likely seen more car wrecks than a scrapyard owner, is the kind alive. The judge isn't buying the shockwave gospel, especially when she realizes that Lydia also had a little solo rendezvous with a curb that destroyed 2 of her tires and rims. It's a symphony of not my fault, where every dent is a mystery and every curb is a villain. Finally, we reach the grand, ego-shattering finale, Act 3, the questionable bedfellows and the $0 reality check. The air in the courtroom turns from icy to absolutely glacial as the judge pivots from the mechanics of the car to the mechanics of Lydia's bedroom. After 15 minutes of Lydia painting Mark as an irresponsible ex-boyfriend who owes her for his life's mistakes, the truth comes out with the subtlest of nudges. It turns out that since Mark moved out, they haven't exactly been living like strangers. They've had dinner. They've gone shopping. And yes, sweetie, they've still been sleeping together. The moment Lydia admits their status is questionable, the case is effectively over. Judge Judy realizes she isn't presiding over a car accident. She's being used as a weapon in a lover's quarrel where the plaintiff is still providing fringe benefits to the defendant. The finale is a swift, brutal nothing. You get 0. That sends Lydia out into the hallway without a dime for her dead. You shouldn't be sharing a witness stand. The curtain falls on a pair of questionable partners and a very satisfied judge who just saved the court a whole lot of time. Let's dive deep into the psychological wreckage of Ewing versus West, a case that serves as a grimly hilarious autopsy of a relationship that died on the vine but somehow kept its Netflix password shared. We have to start with our protagonist, Lydia Hope Ewing, the waitress engineer, who is the ultimate victim of her own selective hearing and a chronic case of, I thought he was changing. Lydia is a fascinating study in the art of the romantic blind spot. She stands there in her professional attire, trying to convince the world, and herself, that she was under the impression Mark's legal woes were being handled, which is universal code for, I didn't want to start an argument, so I ignored the giant neon danger sign flashing over his head. The sheer, unadulterated VO energy Lydia brings when she attempts to explain the physics of a shockwave traveling through a 20-year-old Honda Accord is the kind of high-camp drama we live for. When she talks about dimples by the sunroof and rippled trunk pans with the confidence of a seasoned collision expert, you can practically see the internal eye roll of every mechanic watching at home. She is desire to play the supporting role in a man's chaotic life. She handed him the keys knowing he had more than one ticket, a move that screams, "I'm trying to buy his love with utility," and now she's shocked, to find that the man who can't respect a stop sign doesn't respect a bumper either. Then we have Mark West, the speeding Romeo of the unlicensed world, who is perhaps the most relaxed person to ever stand in a room with Judge Scheindlin. Mark's scan team contribution to this drama is his absolute refusal to accept gravity or legality as functional concepts. His defense for driving an illegal truck and an unlicensed car is essentially, "I thought it was 30 days, not 10, which is the quintessential battle cry of a man who hasn't looked at a calendar or a piece of mail in 3 years. Mark's expressions are a masterclass in avoidant behavior. When asked why he didn't get out of the car after being rear-ended, he gives that classic, empty-headed shrug that tells you everything you need to know about his approach to accountability. He's a shrugaholic who thinks that because he was the one rear-ended, he magically becomes immune to the fact that he shouldn't have been on the asphalt in the first place. The chemistry between these two is the most fascinating part of the drama. It's a radioactive sludge of lingering intimacy and financial results. They are people who have weaponized their past closeness into a legal strategy. Mark tries to gaslight her about the new rims and hearsay accidents, while Lydia tries to weaponize a plumber's bill like it's a piece of state's evidence. The interactions are a dance of "he's a loser, but he's my loser" versus "she's crazy, but she lets me sleep over." When the judge finally corners them on their current relationship status, that one word, questionable, echoes through the courtroom like a death knell for Lydia's credibility. It's the drama of the double dip. You can't sue someone for being a deadbeat in the afternoon if you're splitting a pepperoni pizza and a duvet with them in the evening. Lydia's, when asked about the curb incident, was the sound of 1,000 bad decisions coming home to roost. It was the moment the waitress engineer was revealed to be just another driver with a heavy foot and a penchant for damaging her own property. The interactions between them are cold yet strangely familiar, like two people who have argued this exact same point in a kitchen at 3 a.m. and decided to bring it to national television for a tiebreaker. Mark's nonchalance is his greatest weapon. He knows Lydia is still all in, even when she's all out, and he plays that card with the effortless grace of a man who knows he's getting dinner regardless of the $1,000 estimate. It's the fact that Lydia is trying to use the legal system to set a boundary she was too afraid to set in her own living room. She wants the judge to tell Mark he's a bad boy because she can't do it without inviting him back into the house 5 minutes later. Mark, on the other hand, is the quintessential bad boy who isn't even trying to be bad. He's just profoundly, spectacularly irresponsible, and he's found the perfect partner to enable that streak. Their chemistry is a loop of forgiveness and litigation, a cycle of "I'll drive you to work" and "I'll see you in court." Seeing Lydia realize that her fringe benefits cost her the case is the most empathetic moment of the episode. It's the realization that you can't have your cake and sue it too. They are the team that no one asked for, carrying the weight of a 2002 Honda and a million questionable nights into a courtroom that only deals in absolute truths. This isn't just a trial. It's a character study on why you should never let your heart, or your car, be driven by someone who doesn't even have a valid ID to their name. Now, let's peel back the layers of the production because we all know that a courtroom is just a stage, and the Bonte Dao Dain in this episode was playing 4D chess with our collective sanity from the very first frame. If you look closely at the narrative structure of Ewing versus Win team everywhere, and darling, they're working harder than a waitress during a Sunday brunch rush. The editing in this episode is a masterclass in the slow-motion train wreck technique. The way the camera lingers on Lydia's earnest, pleading face while she explains the physics of her 2002 Honda Accord is nothing short of directorial malice. The producers clearly realized they had struck VO Tri Gold the moment Lydia mentioned dimples by the sunroof and shockwaves traveling through a 20-year-old chassis. Instead of cutting her off, the director lets the scene breathe, allowing Lydia enough rope to hang her own credibility with the confidence of a NASA engineer who just happens to work double shifts at a diner. This is where the Bonte Dao Dain becomes truly Ziosac. They know that the audience is cringing. They know that Judge Judy is about to pounce, and yet they keep the tight shot on Lydia to emphasize every flicker of her misplaced certainty. And let's talk about the sound design, or rather, the weaponized use of silence. When Judge Judy drops the hammer on the fact that Lydia is an unlicensed driver's enabler, the editing booth cuts all ambient noise, leaving only the sharp, rhythmic tap of Judy's finger on the bench to echo the heartbeat of a failing lawsuit. It's a rhythmic percussion of doom. Then there's the hat-sale estimate for the car repairs presented. The show highlights the $284 bumper cover, but spends an inordinate amount of time focusing on the possible rear suspension damage and the $20 clean and delivery fee. It's a subtle editorial wink to the audience, signaling that the entire claim is inflated and absurdly low. Is this script natural? To the untrained eye, it looks like a spontaneous outburst of relationship drama, but honey, the timing of that sleeping together reveal was so perfectly staged it felt like the climax of a Greek tragedy. The producers definitely did their pre-interviews and knew exactly when to nudge Judge Judy toward the questionable status of their relationship. They didn't have to script it, they just had to bait the hook and wait for Lydia to swallow a whole. The contrast between Mark's shrug-heavy body language and Lydia's frantic, technical rambling is a classic, odd couple trope that the editing team leans into with a vengeance. We see the chemistry of the edit, the way they cut from Mark's vacant stare toward the ceiling to Judy's laser-focused glare, creating a triangle of tension that makes the $3,000 claim feel like $3 million. The drama isn't in the car repair, it's in the spectacular failure of the victim, narrative that the show spent the script halfway through moving from irresponsible boyfriend crashes car to irresponsible woman enables boyfriend and still sleeps with him. It's a pivot so smooth it should come with a warning label. The slow-motion realization on Lydia's face when she realizes she's getting zero is the money shot the producers were waiting for, and they framed it with the cold, clinical precision of a surgical strike. This isn't just reality TV. It's a carefully curated autopsy of a situationship performed in front of a live studio audience. The Bonte Dao Dain here isn't trying to find the truth. They're trying to find the comedy in the tragedy of a 2002 Honda and a woman who can't say no to a man with a suspended license. The low factors, the dimples, the shockwaves, the dinner dates are all highlighted to ensure that by the time the gavel drops, the audience isn't just satisfied, they're thoroughly entertained by the sheer audacity of it all. It's a smart, biting, and incredibly efficient piece of television that proves the best drama is the one you don't have to write. You just have to edit it with a very sharp pair of scissors. We reach the final, most glorious chapter of this tragedy, which I call the gospel of the questionable boundaries and the expensive lesson of the midnight snack. If this episode teaches us anything beyond structural integrity of a wet paper towel once you hit a curb, it's that we are living in a cultural era where we've completely lost the plot on what it means to be an adult. We're looking at a society where I assumed it was being taken care of has become the national anthem of the romantically deluded. Darling, if your man hasn't had a license since the last time a flip phone was trendy and you're handing him the keys to your only asset, you aren't a supportive partner. You're a co-conspirator in your own financial ruin. This episode strikes a deep chord with a situationship generation, the ones who think that as long as the chemistry is fire, the legal paperwork is just a vibe that can be ignored. But here is the cold, hard, Judge Judy-flavored truth. The government, the law, and the universe do not care about your wing-tipped eyeliner or how late you were for your shift at the diner. They care about responsibility. The lesson we must all take away from Lydia is that you cannot outsource your boundaries to a man who treats a speeding ticket like a suggestion. There is a profound cultural hat-sand here in the way we enable the bare minimum in our partners while expecting maximum protection from the law when it all goes south. When Lydia says the relationship is questionable, she isn't just describing her Saturday night plans, she's describing her entire approach to reality. In the blur the lines between exes and bedfellows, we have to realize that intimacy has a legal cost. If you are still sharing a pizza and a pillow with the person you're suing, you have effectively told the world that their mistakes don't actually hurt you that much. You've surrendered your victim status for a participant badge. Judge Judy's final decree of nothing, zero, isn't just a legal ruling, it's a spiritual intervention. It's a call to arms for every woman and man to get a life that doesn't involve being a chauffeur for someone the DMV has banned from the asphalt. The shockwave through the car is a perfect metaphor for the shockwaves we send through our own lives when we ignore the red flags for 9 months of living together. The real lesson is that your car insurance and your self-respect should always have a higher premium than your desire to not bother your partner about their mounting legal problems. We see this trend of soft enabling everywhere, from roommates who don't pay rent to boyfriends who don't have IDs, and the courtroom is where that fantasy world comes to die. This is the era of the unlicensed man-child, a cultural phenomenon where responsibility is treated like an allergy. We've become so obsessed with giving people a chance that we forget to check if they even have the basic credentials to function in society. Lydia's waitress car's frame is rippling is a cautionary tale for every empath who thinks their love can fix a suspended license. The VO energy of trying to sue for dimples while admitting you're still sleeping with the defendant is the peak of modern cognitive dissonance. So, the next time you think about letting an unlicensed driver take the wheel of your life, literally or figuratively, remember the dimples by the sunroof and the rippled trunk pan. Remember that if you pick a project instead of a partner, you're the one who ends up paying for the curb you hit along the way. Stay sharp, stay licensed, and for heaven's sake, if you're going to sue them, stop sleeping with them first. It's not just good legal advice. It's the only way to keep your soul and your 2002 Honda from falling apart at the seams. Court is adjourned, the dinner is questionable, and the judgment is zero, but the education we receive today is absolutely priceless. You picked him, honey, now you deal with the bill.